Good afternoon, remedial class. I'm sorry, I have to do another pre-recorded lesson because today I still have to go to the doctor. So sacrifice na ako. I'll go there na lang mga 5 o'clock. Anyway, before we start, on our final day, June 11, we will have our QAS. So that includes chapters 12, 13, 14, and our topic for today, ulitin ko na lang ulit to make it much more refined, which is chapter 15, 16, and 17 ng book. Okay. So for today, let's start the topic. So let's start with chapters 15 to 18, the effects of the various socio-economic factors affecting business and industry. So apat yan. Apat na chapters, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So our quote for today, before we do the prayer, is that when economies turn down, entrepreneurs turn up. And it is really evident, especially during the pandemic. A lot of entrepreneurs just popping out of nowhere. Kumbaga sa Tagalog, nagsulputan na parang mga kabote. And why? Because there are a lot of opportunities ahead. But of course, there are also threats. So before we start, let's present ourselves to the presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom, thy will be done on earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours now and forever. That in all things, God may be glorified. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, we're done with the prayer, so let's start. Let's get down to business. So the question for today is that, is it still a good time to be an entrepreneur or entrepreneur? Kung gusto niya talagang English pronunciation. Again, we've already discussed this topic during our regular classes, and wala naman talagang wala naman talagang right or wrong answer. That's the beauty of business. There's always that middle ground. There's always the alternative truths. Just because you're saying that it's true doesn't mean, or you're saying it's wrong, it doesn't mean it's really wrong. So, is it a good time or a bad time? Let's see. So here is an article from Rappler. The title is Being an Aspiring Entrepreneur. So let's just try to trim the topic because it's lengthy. Again, as you can see, the pandemic has awakened the entrepreneur side of many Filipinos. And of course, many started their own businesses because some of them lost their jobs. Maybe they were laid off, they were fired, or their services are no longer considered valuable. Like in the case of ABS-CBN, they actually suffered a double whammy. Tinanggal ang kanilang prangkisa, and then the pandemic struck. So the company or the organization, ABS-CBN, has no choice really but to really cut some people, retrench. As Gordon Ramsay always said, you have to cut the dead wood. I'm not saying it's the exact word, but something to that effect. Yung mga pabigat, kailangan mo siyang tanggalin. And I'm not really saying na pabigat ka talaga sa company, but it's like more of a financial burden to the company. If you're not contributing or they think that your contributions are no longer valued, then I think wala talagang personalan sa trabaho. Kasi trabaho lang unless they're thinking something. Okay. So, some of them decided to use their free time kasi meron naman mga work from home na dumami yung free time. As I already mentioned, that in the past I used to work in Cavite. I work there, of course, operational hours, and then every day I commute from home to work. And my home is in Tondo. So Tondo to Silang Cavite will take me 2.5 hours. Tapos pauwi, 3 oras. So that's 5.5 hours of time lost just for the travel. And the work from home has presented some opportunity. So imbis na nandun ka sa FX or car or whatever that is, your mode of transportation, you're fiddling your fingers on your mobile phone, and nagkaroon ka ng spare time to do something else. So some of them decided to kickstart their own passion project, which is mostly business. Entrepreneurs are defined on how they respond to a crisis. So meron mga negosyante na wala nang talagang choice eh. No? Nag-close, parado. One of them is my favorite, I think Emerald Garden, close to operation. Sayang. Lots of memories in that place. Indeed, they have all been walloped as hard as the rest. So people will say, empleyado ako, natanggalan ako ng trabaho, hirap ako. Kung tayo bilang mga empleyado nahihirapan, ano pa kaya yung mga business? Mas malaki nakataya sa kanila compared to us. As they always say, high risk, high reward. No? So, matagal na silang high reward. So, this time around is high risk. Again, most are going through unprecedented declines in their businesses and are scrambling to conserve cash. Reduce expenses and pivot the business to be ready for the inevitable recovery from this pandemic. So there are some businesses who are able to innovate, to find ways to keep the business at least operational, if not sustainable, or yung iba pa nga mas kumikita pa compared to pre-pandemic levels. So, our topic is crisis. Nabanggit na yan, crisis. Again, according to John F. Kennedy, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One presents danger and the other represents opportunity. It's a great quotation, however, it is considered as fake news because he never really said two characters. So, ang sabi niya talaga is two brush, which is wrong. No? Siguro nahiya yung mga modern day writers, pinalitan nila yung brush strokes or strokes ng characters. So it's considered as fake news. Hindi niya talaga sinabi yan. It's an alliteration. However, correct pa rin siya sa point of two characters, wherein one represents danger and the other represents opportunity. One is danger, yung first side. Danger muna. So most people will say, these are threatful days or dangerous days ahead. That's why on the left side is danger. And on the right side is the opportunity. So people who look beyond the danger, yung mga taong alam yung danger, pero they accept it, they acknowledge it, and are looking ahead. And that is opportunity. It's again like the Chinese principle. I'm not a philosophy teacher or sociology teacher. In Chinese society, it's always all about the yin and yang, or Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, or Lao Tzu. So in short, in crisis, there is both danger and opportunity. Forget business. Ikakasal ka. Or siguro you're still too young, no? Magjojowa ka. Meron kang liligawan jowa. Lalaki, whatever. May gusto kang lalaki or meron kang natitipuan na babae. There is that danger. Ano ba tong tao na to? Baka kung ano man, anong ugali nito talaga. Huh? But there's also the opportunity pag naging kayo. Sabi nga ni Kim Chu, no? Before sinabi niya na ayaw niya ng pangit, sabi nga, ikaw na ba si Mr. Right? Huh? Possible. If you choose the wrong person, that's a danger. But if you are able to find the right person, that is an opportunity. And for business, ganun din naman. It's all about the analysis, the decision making. No? Kumbaga, naglalaro ka sa apoy when you're doing business. It's always all or nothing. But as much as possible, mitigate the risk or the danger. No? Kasi ang buhay naman, hindi ka pwedeng walang krisis. Sino ba dito sa atin ang nabuhay ng walang krisis na nangyari sa buhay niya? I'm sure wala. Again, continuation of the article. The nature of doing business may have changed, of course. Katulad na lang natin, no? Students and teachers. Dati, you know, if you're pursuing your educational studies, your studies, you have to go to the classroom, attend ka face-to-face with your teacher. Ngayon, pag uwi mo, gagawa ka na lang ng assignment. But nowadays, nasan ba tayo? We're here, online. And I'm actually doing a pre-recorded lesson, which is the beauty of, you know, it's an opportunity. Let's say, ang time slot ko sa pagtuturo is like 10 to 12. I have to attend that 10 to 12 to sa own time. But now, meron akong chance na may chance ka na hindi umattend, no? Or just do a pre-recorded lesson kung talagang hindi ka pwede ng ganung time. Okay. The nature has changed, but the motivations have remained the same. So according to a survey conducted by the 4 common types are based on their needs, goals, and motivations. So ito sila. Independent passion, seeker, cash trap, entrepreneur, traditional breadwinner, and the business rookie. So siguro meron naman na tayong idea kung anong klaseng mga tao to. So the independent passion seeker is about pursuing their passion. Talagang gustong-gusto nila yung business, especially kung yung products or services na ino-offer nila ay talagang hobby nila or gusto nila talaga. So let's say you love coffee or you love milk tea. Marami akong kilala na ganun ang pag-iisip. Pare, ang hilig ko sa milk tea. Ang hilig ko sa coffee. Imbis na magbili ng 100, 150, kung magkano man yan. Hindi ako na lang magbenta. Pag-aralan ko, aspiring or frustrated barista ako or mahilig talaga ako sa tsaka. Then do it. Yun yung tinatawag nating passion seeker. The cash trap and the traditional breadwinner, on the other hand, are similar, pero merong slight differences. Okay, first and foremost, they're both in it to earn an income first and foremost. So si cash trap, ano bang nagiging dilemma ni cash trap? Kailangan niya ng kapital. So yung problem nila is like the chicken and egg. So ang problema ni cash trap is the egg, which is capital. How do you start the business if you don't have the capital? Kanino ka uutang? Kanino ka hihiram? Paano ka mag-generate ng puhunan? No? Whereas, si traditional breadwinner, nandyan na, naka-establish na siya. Problema naman niya is the chicken. The main problem naman is how to scale and improve the efficiency in their business. Siguro, let's say, meron na siyang laundromat, no? Or meron na siyang hardware. Now, he or she wants to expand the operations. Gusto mo maglagay ba ng satellite branch ng hardware mo? Or mag-focus ka lang sa isa, no? Or kung let's say ang business mo naman is more on food, would you prefer to just stay there, no? To remain in your comfortable spot, though wala ka ng improvements kasi maximize mo na yung location mo eh. No? Siguro kung further maximize mo pa, it's because of the uh, uh, food delivery apps such as Food Panda and Grab Foods among many others. No? But meron namang iba na ang aim is to do the franchise. A good example ng business is si pangalan nito, Keyzones. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that bakery slash cafe. So dati ang location ni Keyzones is just outside Robinson's Place, Manila, na dating Manila Midtown Hotel. So I'll never forget that place because that was where we did the JS prom. So for many years, dun siya nanatili. Talagang dinadayo siya. Pupunta yung mga artista, lalo na si Dolphy, dati favorite daw niya yun. Huh? But as time goes by, people are very, meron silang iba-ibang reasonings. Bakit pa ako dadayo kay Keyzones? Meron malapit na, somewhat equivalent, if not much better. So that's the time that they decided na mag-expand konti. Pero I think the more famous branch of their Keyzones is in Green Hills. Huh? Another is Masuki. Si Masuki or Mamunlok, it's a noodle place in Binondo. It's one of my favorites. So dati doon lang. No? Iba kasi yung meron yung Mamunlok lang na pangalan eh. So dalawang branches yun. So itong Masuki, nag-expand siya further after a few years. No? Binondo, of course, yung traditional nila. And then, nag-open sila sa Green Hills, nag-open sila sa Mega Mall, nag-open sila sa SM Mall of Asia. I'm not sure kung meron pang ibang branches. Katatak pa rin sa utak ng mga kliyente nila, ng mga customers, na the best restaurant, the best branch is always yung main, Binondo. Kumbaga yung Binondo yung pinaka main branch, nandun yung pinakamagaling na kusinero at yung mga other branches tinuruan ng head chef or natuto lang. Again, we will delve into that further. Again, last, the business rookie. Halos lahat tayo doon. Doon tayo magsisimula. Hindi ka pwedeng skip ka kagad dito kay kay pangalan nito, kay Cash Trap. You will have to start with the business rookie or si passion, yung una. But even if you're passionate, you will still have to undergo this stage. They are the least business savvy among the 4 common types. So, lahat tayo gustong magnegosyo pero yung guidance wala tayo or wala yung iba sa atin walang motivation. So in short, ito yung mga tinatawag na ningas kugon, no? Magnenegosyo sila at the very start pero at the end parang masukan na lang ulit ako. That's the problem. No? Minsan hindi sustainable yung business model. Okay. So ayan, so tumaas yung business name registrations o kasagsagan ng pandemic, especially June, 33,000. How do socioeconomic factors affect businesses? Yun yung question. So this is it. So socioeconomic impact of business, consumers, suppliers, and household muna. Pero may kulang siya. Ito yun. Yan. I have to remove that slide. So you have 5. 5 factors for the socioeconomic impact, or you might say 5 forces of socioeconomic impact. Unofficial name lang yun. You have consumers, households, suppliers. Hindi lumitaw isa. Okay. Hindi lumitaw. Investors. Okay. Balikan natin yung kanina. Yan. So, 5 sila. Consumers and households muna tayo. Bakit magkasama to? Yung consumer, yung bibili. Yung household, yun yung makikinabang doon sa binili ng consumer. Whether siya lang mag-isa or the entire family. So ano ba epekto ng business sa consumers? Yan. Influence consumers emotionally. 2, encourage customers to look for value. 3, offer social responsibility. Isa yan sa pinaka-importante. And number 4, change behavior with excellent service. So let's discuss these 4. First, influence consumers emotionally. To affect the consumer's behavior, you have to communicate a message. Communication is the key. How do you communicate the product? How do you communicate your service? How do you communicate your organization to your customers? So it's more of marketing. But the effect, the result of your communication is the economics part. Consumers are more likely to respond to material that connects to an emotional level. So if you were able to captivate your consumers, kaya nga merong mga nag-undergo ng market research, you're trying to know the customer in a much deeper level. And surprise combined with repeated episodes of joy or humor is so how do you do that? Whether it's through advertisement, social media, ano pa? Marami. Pero yun yung pinaka-common right now. Billboards, medyo old school na. News and tabloids. Or even some endorsements from celebrities, influencers, or the like. A good example of this is yung Wendy's sa US when they established that Twitter quote-unquote burner account wherein they were somewhat ridiculing their consumers. On normal circumstances, magagalit yung consumer or customer. Pero customer nakikisakay pa sa trip ni Wendy's. Or Jollibee, which have those very emotional commercials. Actually, si McDo, Philippines, also have great commercials. Pero siguro, number 1 pa rin si Jollibee sa ating mga puso, despite the towel joy incident. And speaking of the towel joy incident, marami pa rin, it connected to the emotional level na, yes, nagkamali si Jollibee, but we have to forgive the mistakes. Wala naman may gusto nun eh. Siguro kung merong may gusto nun, yung careless o talagang nananadya na gawin yung tuwalya maging chicken joy. That's it. But a lot of people from bashing, naging sympathizing sila towards Jollibee. Number 2, encourage customers to look for value. If you solve a common problem for consumers more effectively than your competitors or solve it at substantially low cost, you can influence consumers to switch to your brand. Your messages emphasizes the higher value consumers get when you solve their problem using your products. The key is to make your products meet the expectations of the customers. So there are two schools of thought there. No? Meron yung much cheaper. No? Let's say milk tea. No? Meron nag-release ng milk tea na 120 pesos. Kunwari. And then someone else was able to do it at a much cheaper cost, like 90 pesos. But the quality is just a shade below, if not on par, if not even better. So, hindi mo man makukuha yung market share ng 120 pesos milk tea. Hindi mo naman makukuha lahat. But at least you get the slice of the pie. Or you innovate a new product like the iPod, no? Apple iPod, yung nung una pa, no? Hindi pa kayo pinapanganak. Then, parang when it was first released, nung wala pa yung iPhone, no? It was like mind-blowing nung wala pa si Spotify. No? But we will get to Spotify later. You can put whatever song you want on this tiny piece or dito sa malaki yung iPod Classic. I have the iPod Classic. You can put 160 gigabyte of music on this mini device. Tapos meron ka ng rotating wheel. Yung rotating wheel to play. Pag ayaw mo, lipat. And ikaw masusunod doon sa mga music na ilalagay mo. So at that time, no, people were like, wow. No? And then nagkaroon ng, ano pa yun? Isa pa eh. Yung parang before the iPhone, no? Meron pa siya. iPod na medyo may pagka-mobile device yung dating. I forgot that. Gusto ko yung dati, no? Pero I wasn't able to buy that. And then, bang, no? iPhone. Isang device, you can put anything. Not just music. You can message, you can do anything. You can take pictures, and so on and so forth. Innovation. Of course, meron naman nakagawa noon at substantially lower cost like the Android phones or the MP3 players. Pero, di ba? There are some loyalists pa rin na iPhone or Apple products. And then on the other hand, you have the iPod Classic, but now what do we have? We have Spotify. Very convenient. Magkano lang bayad mo? Parang, I'm not sure, $10? 400 pesos per month? Meron pa yung mga nakikishare ng account. So, mas mura yun kaysa bibili ka kagad na, maglalabas ka kagad ng 15,000 or yung medyo maliit, mga 3 to 5,000. Next, offer social responsibility. To have a more general effect on consumer behavior is to offer other ways of thinking in a socially responsible. You can promote your brand as environmentally green and socially responsible, carrying out the corresponding initiatives and informing your target markets of your action. So, one of my favorite samples of companies offering social responsibility is Patagonia. Though dito sa Pilipinas kasi walang Patagonia, Patago sila. But especially in the US, they are very well known for their social responsibility. They are makers of jackets. So pwede mong frame of reference or FOR is North Face and Colombia. Ang pinakasikat nila na naging innovation is yung they will repair. Meron silang parang van na merong parang mananahi doon. And they go around the country or they declare that kung saan pupunta yung van na yon para mag-repair. So kung sira na yung jacket mo na parang Patagonia or kahit sa kalaban mo, you can bring it to them. I-repair nila yun and then you pay at a fraction of buying a new jacket. That is social responsibility. People will ask, sir, kung nagbebenta sila ng jacket, bakit nag-aano sila na mag-repair ng jacket. Di ba parang, sir, katangahan yun. Na you're supposed to sell your jackets. You're supposed to sell your products. But they're still selling their products. Diba? Kasi they're offering such services that will make you admire the company, and maybe hindi ka nga bibili ng jacket kasi ni-repair nila yung jacket mo. But you might buy their bags, you might buy some of their accessories and stuff, or endorse the product to other consumers. You might refer the product to your friend. Bili ka ng Patagonia, pare. Thus, the brand is further promoted and elevated. So medyo may pagka-marketing yung topic na to, but the effects are what we're talking about, which is economics. And number 4, change behavior with excellent service. The level of service customers experience when dealing with your company can have a profound effect on consumer behavior. Customers who experience bad service, of course, will not buy from your company again and are more likely to share negative experiences with friends and all. Like I previously said, 1 out of 100, papalpak at papalpak. If you will have your business math, you can ask your teacher, sir, what is the probability of a failed service? But yung failed kasi, or bad service, is based on demand lang yan. Minsan kasi hindi lang nagkakaintindihan si customer and the client, the company. Meron talaga mga customer na mga arte, ginawa mo na lahat, kulang na lang, alam mo, ano man yun. But still, they're not satisfied. A good example is a hotel. Ginawa mo na lahat. Nag-serve ka na ng magandang quality na coffee, sarap na cake, and then they will complain ang tagal ng bill. Ayan. Whose fault is that? Yes, it's the fault of the coffee shop. Tagal sila gumawa ng bill. But it takes 2 to tango. Bakit hindi mo kagad hiningi yung resibo when you order? So yung bad service kasi, isa ka rin sa may kasalanan. Of course, people say, sir, customers always right. Yes, we know that. The customers always right. Kahit hindi ka nag-aaral ng business. Kahit bata, alam yun. The customers always right. But it's quoted as customer is always right. You are still, you as the customer is also part of the service. Right? You must tell the one that's offering your services kung ano talaga yung mga gusto mo. Because minsan ang difficulty with the service is hindi nila ma-anticipate ano ba yung mga needs and wants mo. Take for instance, sa construction, ginawa mo na lahat tapos sasabihin nila mahal. Magaling yung computation mo ng design, magaling lahat yung team mo. Architectural, structural, plumbing, electrical, and mechanical kung kailangan. But they will say, engineer, mahal naman yung ano mo, design services mo. Well, anong mas mahal? Tanggapin mo yung service mo or magpapakode ka pa sa iba? Ano magpapakode ka pa sa iba? Sana, sabay-sabay ka na nagpakode sa tatlo. But sa service kasi iba-iba yung level. Iba-iba sila ng standards. So siguro mapapamura ka dito sa isang company, but in the long run, mapapamura ka rin. But if you were able to captivate the imagination of the client, of the customers, if you exceeded especially their expectations, what will happen? They will love you. Customer satisfaction. That is the ultimate goal of any company, especially sa service. Kasi pag meron ka ng customer satisfaction, referrals will come. Of course, just because you referred some company for their service, that doesn't mean na yung nireferan nila may enjoy yung service. Again, service, kanya-kanyang interpretasyon yan. Kanya-kanyang haka-haka yan. Meron mga tao na ayaw nilang pinakikialaman sila sa supermarket, meron naman na feeling donya, senyorito, di ba? Meron mga kliyente na gusto hands-on yung may-ari ng company sa project nila, pero hindi naman kalakihan yung project. At meron naman na kung ano yung offer ng company, basta ma-provide nila, they're satisfied. Okay na sa kanila. So it goes both ways. Consumer sovereignty. What is the role of customers in determining the types of quantities? According to Adam Smith, consumption is the sole purpose of production. Again, di naman natin makokontra yan. No? Hindi naman literally kakainin mo yung graba at saka yung mga hollow block. But you will consume it, no, for whatever its purpose. Hindi ka naman siguro bibili ng hollow block para ipang-cutic sa kamay mo. No? Or konkreto. No? Bibili ka ng semento, tubig, lagyan mo ng konting graba, buhangin, tapos ipang-cutics mo. Of course, kung ano yung purpose ng semento, dun siya. Kung anong purpose ng pagkain, dun siya. Which is, you will eat that. Or not necessarily the customer, but kung sino yung makikinabang ng pagkain. Changes in demand for a variety of products and services that high profit maximizing businesses will produce in the market economy. So pag merong high demand, there will be a higher price of the product. Balikan naman natin ulit yung law of supply and demand. No? High demand will lead to less supply, which will lead to higher price. No? And encourages expansion of industry as producers attempt to capture more profit. So pag high demand, diyan magkakanda kumahog yung mga kalaban mo. Oy, malakas ang kita sa alcohol, no? Last year. Nagkaroon ng magkakaroon ng nadami yung kalaban mo. Last year yung okay. So last year, nagkaroon tayo ng shortage ng alcohol. Ngayon, biglang nagsulputan yung mga ibang brand na hindi naman natin alam. No? But nag-stabilize na ulit yung supply. On the other hand, a decrease in demand will result in lower prices and eventually a contraction. Like, let's say for example, meron pa bang gumagamit ng pager ngayon? Meron pa bang gumagamit ng typewriter ngayon, makinilya? Wala na. So, the demand goes down, maybe bit by bit, maybe sudden. So there's a contraction. So producers will see profit in other industries. Wala na, matumal na rito. Hanap na tayo ng ibang imamanufacture. So I guess that's one of the problems in the manufacturing industry. Especially pag yung product nila ay hindi bumenta or yung buong industry, kasi wala nang gustong magkape. Wala nang gustong mag 3-in-1. Lahat ng tao nagko-coffee beans. Then ano pa silbi natin? Magsara na lang tayo. Or hanap na lang tayo ng ibang products na pwedeng gawin. Consumer sovereignty continued. So, merong mga certain assumptions about the behavior of a consumer. So, lahat tayo dito, damay-damay. No? One, consumers are rational. If there is a markdown or sale, consumers will buy more goods and services. Makokontra niyo ba yun? No. No? Dito sa Pilipinas nga lang, katulad nung a few days ago, katatapos lang nung sa Lazada 66 mid-year sale. No? Kung ano man yan, 66, 77, 88, 99, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12. Pag may sale, nagkakanda, hindi mo maintindihan kung anong ng mga tao. No? Anong tumatakbo sa isip nila. In the US, on the other hand, they have the Friday. Talaga naman, kakaroon ng black eye yung ibang mga tao, nagkakasuntukan pa, nag-aaway, nag-aagawan for that. And again, back to the Philippines, mga 3-day sale. So some people have posted sa Facebook yung mga alleged scams ng SM wherein akala mo bumaba yung presyo kasi 3-day sale. Pag tinanggal mo yung barcode, makikita mo yung presyo. Mas mababa pa pala. 2, preferences exist over various goods and services in the market using the concept of marginal utilities. So dadaanan natin mamaya si marginal utilities. So meron tayo kanya-kanyang preference. So let's say, sa chicken na lang, majority of the people prefer chicken joy. But ako, mas gusto ko konti si Popeyes. But before Popeyes, ano ba yung mas gusto ko? Probably McDonald's. Though, I can still eat Jollibee chicken joy. Why not? Masarap din naman. But you cannot please everyone, or people will prefer some form of variety in one way or another. So minsan, ayoko ng normal fast food. No? I'll buy hot, I'll buy savory. Of course, hindi naman counted as chicken, fried chicken yun. Or some will buy Max fried chicken. Kasi try to imagine, if you love Jollibee so much, you will be eating Jollibee every day. Jollibee every day. Huh? Dadaanan natin yan mamaya. And number 3, consumers are subject to budget constraints. Magkano ba kinikita nyo? Apeklado yun. Doon sa mga gusto mong bilhin. Huh? So while consumer wants and needs are unlimited, this is subject to their capacity to pay for the service, goods and services. Budget and income are used interchangeably. Pareha lang yan. Whether kumikita ka or magkano yung budget mo. Of course, pag sumisweldo ka naman ng, let's say, 15,000, hindi mo naman lalagay lahat ng 15,000 na yun sa pagkain. You still have to pay for your utilities, your rent, no? Or kung ano pa yung gusto mong gawin, travel, transportation, or konting luxuries like a vacation. And number 4, prices exist due to unlimited wants and scarcity of the services. So, economics. Studies the scarcity of the sources. Yeah. Factors that impact business and consumers, confidence. So yan, changes in interest rates or exchange rates, particularly if they are rapid, large, and unexpected. So minsan, pag umuutang ka sa credit card, 0.49 and then the next 0.49%, then next, tumaas ng 1%. Ang laking depresya po nun. No? Number 2, swings in the business cycle and associated movements in employment, unemployment levels, and business investment relations. Yun nga, tulad yan. Karoon tayo ng pandemya, some businesses were forced to lay off or retrench people. Some were forced to close down. Ano pa? Yung kagulo sa kumpanya, mga nagsipag-resign, and nag-hiring, or nagkaroon ng hostile takeover, merger and acquisitions, and the petrol. Wala tayong magawa dyan. Okay, okay. So petrolyo, wala tayong magagawa. The problem with petroleum prices is that pag tumasyal, halos lahat ng mga products and services na tataas din. Okay. So tataas din. Healthcare, again, tumataas siya lagi. Education, ganun din. Ask your parents how much was their tuition fee during their days compared to yours. Malaki. And utilities. Wala ka rin magagawa. Utilities, tubig, kuryente. Di ba? Di huwag kang gumamit ng kuryente. O huwag kang gumamit ng tubig. Let's see what will happen. And large external economic or financial shocks, like financial crisis. Number 5, announce policy shifts in the stance of government fiscal policy, including large structural spending cuts or increase and decreases in taxation rates. So yung fiscal policy, mas bihira yan. But, pero yung mga taxation rates, right now, one of the problems, dati it's the train law. Ngayon, nagkaroon yung trabaho law. Meron pa silang pinopropose na yung PIFITA, passive income, which will affect your investments. And then now, it's the schools. They are proposing an increase of 25% on the taxes of private schools. Ano mangyayari sa mga private schools kung dadagdagan mo ng burden? We're already living in the pandemic era. A lot of students from private schools have transferred to public schools. Bakit? Do they want to do the public schools thing? No, maybe not. No? But they don't have a choice. Wala na kaming kikitain eh. Wala na pera. Hindi na sapat yung budget. Natanggal na sa trabaho si tatay. Or bumaba yung sweldo. Diba? Mom and dad. Paano naman? No? So lahat ng gagawin ng government, especially fiscal policies, say additional value-added tax, or yung mga interest, it will affect everybody. Utility analysis, so yan. You just go taste and preference. So utility is the sense of pleasure. Nasarapan ka ba? Nasatisfied ka ba o nabitin ka ba sa pagkonsumo? And it is subjective. Masarap ang binili kong chicken. The other one will say, mas masarap pa rito. Mas mahal nga lang. So, kanya-kanyang opinion niya. Economists assume simply that tastes are given and relatively stable. That is, different people may have different tastes. Correct yun. Let's say, ikaw at ako, ang gusto mo, Jollibee, but an individual's tastes are not constantly in flux. Correct. Gusto mo Jollibee. So, medyo matagal-tagal yun bago magbago na ayaw mo na ng Jollibee. And ganun din sa akin. Medyo matagal-tagal bago mawala yung preference ko ng McDo. Lilipat ako ng Jollibee. Taste for some products do not change in time. However, economists believe that they are stable enough to allow us to examine, such as that between price and quantity, which is correct. Bago yung panlang. Like, for example, nung bata ako, hindi ako kumakain masyado ng gulay. Or should I say, but nowadays, I'm more or less a vegetarian rather than, yung carnivore. Yeah. Rather than a omnivore. So medyo more on vegetarian na tayo. And if tastes were not relatively stable, we could not reasonably make other things constant. For demand analysis. Siyempre, kung pabago-bago yung taste mo, yung demand mo, paano? We could not even draw a demand curve. So number 2, you have the law of diminishing marginal utility. Total utility is the total satisfaction you derive from consumption. This could refer to either your total utility of consuming a particular good or your total utility from all consumption. No? So let's say kumain ka sa Vikings, kumain ka sa Buffet 101, no? That is your total utility. Lahat ng mga kinain mo, will it satisfy? Or minsan kasi meron ka lang hindi makain ng masarap dyan. It will affect your overall experience. Huh? So yun yung nangyayari madalas. And marginal utility is the change in your total utility from a one unit change in your consumption of a good. May papakita ko sample mamaya. No? The law of diminishing market utility states that the more good you consume per period, other things constant, the smaller the increase in your total utility from additional consumption. That is, the smaller the marginal utility of each additional unit consumed. Ulit ka. Okay. So diminishing marginal utility is a feature of all consumption. Huh? Papakita ko yung sample later. In fact, almost anything repeated enough will become torture. So isipin mo, paborito mo yung Jollibee Chicken Joy, pero araw-araw kitang pakakainin ng Jollibee Chicken Joy. Ano kaya ang pakiramdam? Huh? So una, masarap. Yes. No? Chicken Joy. Day 2, Chicken Joy. Day 3, Chicken Joy. Pero pagdating siguro mga day 100, yawa na, no? Ayaw na. Indeed, variety is a spice of life. For some goods, the drop in marginal utility with additional consumption is greater. Yan yun. Ayoko na, tama na. Tigilan nyo na ako ng Chicken Joy araw-araw. Huh? So, why does marginal utility decline rather than increase as more of a good is consumed? Here's that sample na sinasabi ko. Let's say naglakad si Mr. Vargas ng 6.5 kilometers. So, syempre, uhaw yung tao, na. Pag hindi ka pa umiinom, both your total utility and your marginal utility are zero. Kasi wala ka pang iniinom eh. So, nag-consume siya ng first glass. Total utility will rise to 40 and your marginal is 40. But notice the second glass. Hindi, sir, di ba dapat 40 rin yung dagdag? Yun yung diminishing marginal utility. 20 na lang ang nadagdag, no? Nung uminom si Mr. Vargas ng second glass. 60. And then here's your marginal utility. 20 na lang ang nadagdag. And then ito yung 60. Third glass, uminom ulit si Mr. Vargas. 70. So 10 na lang ang nadagdag. 10 na lang yung marginal utility or MU. And then the fourth, 5 na lang. Nangangalahati na nangangalahati. 5 na lang, no? Ang nadagdag. And then last, asar talo na, no? Nabawasan, -2. So, ibig sabihin, pagkatapos tumakbo ng 6.5 kilometer, hanggang 4 lang ang limit ni Mr. Vargas for total utility. After that, magde-decline na siya. Pwede pa siya uminom, pero ayaw na. Ang pagkatama na. Indifference map, budget line, and consumer maximization and equilibrium position. So, pag sasama-samahin mo to, ito siya. Consumer maximization and equilibrium position. So, let's explain briefly lang. So, here is your indifference curve. It's a relationship between two goods, huh, that give a consumer equal satisfaction. So, yung sample ko last time, it's pizza and root beer. So, yan yung indifference curve. For example, can be used to analyze consumer behavior by revealing patient preference. So, pwede namang iba eh. Let's say, pizza and beer. Or pizza and water. But here, let's just focus on pizza. So, yan yung magiging behavior Diba? Regarding my tastes and preferences. Next is the out of sequence yung ano. Marginal rate of substitution. So ito yung willingness ng customer, no, to replace one good for another good. So ito yung sinabi ko kanina. Will I be willing to trade off yung opportunity cost? Rather than eat pizza, kakain na lang ako ng samgyup. Samgyup and root beer. As long as the new good is equally satisfying. So there will be instances where okay lang sa akin samgyup, no? Masarap. But how about, let's say, palitan natin. Gawin naman natin pizza and water. Will that be satisfying? Probably, kung diabetic ka, you're not really supposed to drink root beer. But meron mga tao na ayaw ng ganong combination. The marginal rate of substitution is the measurement of the slope of an IC at a particular point on the IC. So ito yun. Marginal rate of substitution depende sa area ng indifference curve. Depende sa location. Kaya siya walang drawing. This is the indifference map. Ito na naman yung tatlong indifference curves. Summary. Which is farther away from the origin corresponds to the inclusion of utilities. So, mas matutuwa ka dito, hindi dito. Ito yung parang worst case scenario mo, si IC3. And then budget line provides all the possible combinations of the two sets of goods given normal income and prices for both goods, depending on the limit of expenditure. So let's say si commodity Y, you are willing to spend this amount of money, and for commodity X, ganun din. Ito lang yung budget mo. So let's say, bibili ka ng Pizza Hut. Sorry, favorite ko si Pizza. You're going to buy a buy one, take one. Probably you will spend 450 pesos. Meron yung mas mura pa yung 399. And then for the root beer, siguro yung pinakamura sa supermarket, it's 70 pesos. But kung wala kang budget, it's either you remove one or you substitute. Kung wala ka ng pera, then why buy root beer? Magtubig ka na lang. Something to that effect. The marginal rate of market substitution is the numerical representation of the slope. So M over PY, M over PX of the two goods, and is the feasible rate that one can trade off X and Y. So siguro, let's say dito, commodity X. You bought root beer. So dito, lalayo ng konti. Yung slope mo, diliit. Mas hahaba. 1/3. Compared to, let's say, water and pizza, let's say 20 pesos lang yung water, then tataas yung slope. And last is the consumer maximization and equilibrium position. So ito yung combination ng mga diniscuss ko kanina. So you have the budget line, the indifference map, and then this one is the equilibrium position. So this is the point where the consumer maximizes his or her utility. It's the same as the equilibrium point as stated. So, dito siya pinaka-optimize. Kumbaga, nagkasundo-sundo na. Okay ako rito sa ganitong presyo. Okay ako sa ganitong goods. Combination of goods. The consumer maximization point IC2 intersects with the BL. So, shoot sa budget. This is the highest attainable indifference curve. So ito yung pinaka-pinnacle. Pinakasagad. The consumer is at his or her highest maximum level of utility. Even the income as the constraint. So yung income mo, sakto ka rito sa ganitong budget, or total cost between good X and good Y. ROI. So that's why it's called consumer maximization and also equilibrium position. The consumer has no reason to change his or her consumption pattern while at this point in time. Yun yung dahilan. Ha? Eh dito ako masaya eh, 450. 450 si pizza, 70 pesos si root beer. Yun ang gusto ko mapagdayan. That's your CMEP. Consumer can achieve the highest point of satisfaction by choosing the point on the BL that is on the highest indifference curve. Okay, so factors affecting household spending. The pattern of spending changes over time as a result of course, household income. No? So dati mahirap lang kayo, biglang masenso. No? Some goods are normal goods while others are inferior. So hindi naman talaga sinabing inferior na walang silbi. We have already discussed this during the previous quarter. So ito yung, let's say, medyo short sa budget, you will buy something slightly cheaper. So increases in income encourage households to shift spending from goods with low income elasticity of demand like food to those with high income elasticity of demand like holidays. So dati siguro yung budget nyo, no? Let's see, 80,000 a month. Total na yan, total. Si daddy sumusweldo ng 50, si mommy 30. 80. So usually yung budget nyo is, eto lang. Nung lumaki sweldo nila pareho or let's say nag-business yung isa, basta lumaki yung household income. Then, meron ka ng konting luxury. Pwede ka na mag-vacation, punta ka ng Cebu, punta ka ng Singapore, and so on and so forth. The food you might be eating dati, parang araw-araw, pritong tuyo, galunggong daing. Now, naglalapu-lapu ka na, lobster, and so on and so forth. Taste and fashions. Over time, spending on certain items that are in fashion increase relative to those that go out of fashion. So the problem with fashion is nalalaos. Sa lalaki kasi, walang problema sa fashion. Ano bang forma ng lalaki? T-shirt, pantalon, or short. Tapos na ang kwento. Pare-pareho lang naman kaming naka-Amerikana, di ba? Siguro may konting kaartehan lang. No? Yung iba. But it's pretty much the same on all guys. Sa babae kasi, especially, it's a very different story. No? Yung sinusuot mo 5 years ago, let's say, uso yung bell bottoms. Ngayon, uso na ngayon mini skirt. So you have to buy another piece of apparel or clothing. So you keep spending money on fashion. Hindi katulad namin mga guys, mas simple ang pananamit namin. I, for one, have clothes that I've been wearing since I was a teenager. But now, no, member na ako ng Thunders. But still, no problem. Taxes and subsidies, such as indirect taxes and rise and fall, households will be encouraged or discouraged from spending. So, automatic na yan. Pag tinamaan ka ng tax, mababawasan ka ng kapangyarihan or disposable income. Relative prices, as the prices of certain goods and services rise in relation to others, household spending will adjust. As let's say, mahilig kayo mag-consume ng milk tea at 90 pesos. 90. Tumaas yung milk tea, lahat ng milk tea na, lahat ng tindahan naging 150. Then, malilimit yung pag-inom niya ng milk tea. But there is some anomalies there. Eh bakit, sir, yung mga beer, tumaas na yung presyo lahat-lahat? Alak, tumaas na presyo lahat-lahat. Pero parang lalo lumalakas yung mga tomador natin. Yung mga virgin. Yung mga may umiinom ng beer at gin. Bakit mas lalo lumakas yung consumption? Well, yan yung mga outliers. But usually, pag tumaas ang mga prices ng items, ng services, medyo mag-iikpit ka ng sinturon. Determinants of spending is determined by a number of factors, including the current level of national. So, habang tumataas yung income mo, customers tend to increase their spending on higher income, elastic goods and services. So you will notice that during the pre-pandemic levels, no? Your friends, kung estudyante kayo, medyo hindi pa eh. Pero kami, mga professionals, you will notice that your friends will go to some fancy restaurant, will go to overseas, no? Doon sila magbabakasyon. Iban parang nantutuya pa, pupunta ng Maldives, punta ng Boracay, Amanpulo. Tapos malalaman mo, hindi pala sa Amanpulo. Lamang pulo lang pala. Or Balisin. Hindi naman pala Balisin yung pinunta niya, Malasin lang. But, even so, they have the money, they have the income to spend on. So yung iba bumibili naman ng leisure goods. Bibili sila ng Hermes bag, no? Kahit ang sweldo nila 15,000 na. But when income falls, like right now in the pandemic levels, household may postpone spending on these luxuries until income starts again. So medyo mahirap lumabas ngayon, walang pera mga tao. So usually people are currently experiencing tight budgets. Level of savings. Spending and saving are mutually exclusive, which means that if income is fixed, any changes in household savings will adversely affect spending. Many of the determinants of consumption may have an inverse effect on saving. So let's say sumisweldo ka ng 30,000 per month, ang savings mo is 5,000. Ngayon siguro magkakaroon ka ng problema, let's say nagkaroon ng crisis, no? Or may nagkasakit. Usually yung savings mo ang unang-unang maapektuhan. Lalo na kung yung mga nabanggit kanina, yung tumaas yung education, tumaas yung medicine, no? Healthcare. Unang-unang maapektuhan yung savings mo. You might not be saving much more than you prefer. Expectations. If households are and have positive expectations about the future, current spending can rise. So, ganito yan eh. Usually, let's say ang sweldo ni daddy is 50,000, then na-promote siya to 120,000 a month. Naging 6 figures. So, minsan nagiging hara-hara na yung paggastos mo. Medyo hindi ka na nagko-conserve. Kasi malaki na yung sweldo eh. And have positive expectations about the future. Current spending can rise. The problem is, there are a lot of uncertain factors. What if, yun nga, biglang nagkaroon ng pandemic, na-lay off si daddy, or na-demote, or bumaba yung sweldo. This can lead to economic growth. No? So yun lang naman ang magiging problema kung magkakaroon ng mga crisis. So pag lumalaki yung gastusin, siyempre bumabalik sa ekonomiya. And then it will reinforce the positive expectations. So yung nabanggit ko is the worst case scenario. Let's say natanggal si daddy or na-demote yun nga, yung sweldo. At least yung sweldo. Sabihin nila, Mr. Ganito, mananatili ka sa kumpanya pero magkakaroon ka ng salary cut. Imbis na 120, balikan namin sa 50. Pero yung trabaho mo, ganun pa rin. But, yung pag malakas gumastos ang isang household, it can contribute to the economy. Unemployment has two potential effects. Yun nga yung nabanggit ko, na-advance pala ako. On household spending, first, the unemployed spend less because of their lower personal income. And secondly, unemployment causes negative expectations. Even for those employed, and this can act as a curb on spending and stimulus to saving. Siyempre, nawalan ka ng trabaho, wala kang income, lahat puro labas. Hindi ka naman pwedeng walang trabaho tapos may pumapasok sa'yo. No? Mapipilitan kang magtipid, mapipilitan kang mag-ipon. No? So there was a time that I was unemployed, talagang ipon to the max ang ginagawa ko. Lahat ng, kung may magbigay sa akin ng 1,000, ipapasok ko talaga sa bangko yan, hindi ko gagastusin. But as much as possible, no? Medyo mahirap maging free loan. So, please, do your best to find a job. Huwag po tayong maarte sa trabaho, especially for the senior high students if you're going to work in the future. Minsan kasi ang pera, just because you finish accountancy doesn't mean you will work on an accounting firm. Hindi, of course, as young students, as young graduates, you will say, I studied accountancy, I'm a CPA. So sayang naman yung pinag-aralan ko if I do something different kahit na mas malaki yung sweldo. But in the long run, lalo na pag may pamilya na kayo or, diba, you will say, pera lang yun. Basta kumikita ako, okay lang sa akin. And last, tax rates. A cut in income tax will give consumers more disposable income. No need to explain that. No? Mas marami kang magagastos. Interest rates influence the cost of borrowing and mortgage interest payments. A rise in interest rates will stimulate more saving. So, syempre, medyo hesitant ka ng gumastos. Less spending and increase the cost of mortgage payments. Therefore, higher rates will lead to lower spending as consumers have lower disposable income. So, kailangan magbalanse. No? Some of you will say, next time na lang. Diba? Pag mataas ang interest. Siyempre, sayang yung pera. High interest will lead to lack of interest. Okay. So, next. Dapat pala nag-extend na lang ako. No, last time. Suppliers and investors. So this is more to everyone. Ang consumer may supplier. O sino man yung binibilhan ni consumer. Ang tindahan, no, yung binibilhan ni supplier, may supplier din yan. So, let's focus here. Factors in selecting the right suppliers. One is supplier history and reputation. Hindi na siya kailangan i-explain further. The words speaks for themselves. The quality of the product and service provided by the supplier. Price charged by the supplier and how does this impact the quality of the product and service provided by the supplier. Ito, pwede mo explain konti. Let's say you're buying cheese. No? Dito kay supplier na kilala mo. Let's say the block of cheese is like 120 pesos. Hindi naman talaga yun yung value, pero just as an example value. And then may nakita kang supplier na iba. Same item, pero 100 lang. No? So saan ka pupunta? Kay supplier A or supplier B? It's up to you. Meron kasi naman mga supplier na kahit mas mahal siya, meron naman kasi mga supplier na kahit mas mahal siya mas maganda yung service or meron kang terms. Meron kang terms or suki ka na. No? So, nabibigyan ka ng leeway. Financial strength. No? Actually, hindi na masyadong consideration niya sa suppliers or in selecting. So, ito yung PC na suppliers. And number 5 is the size of the supplier and its other customers. Again, minsan hindi naman siya nagiging concern na selecting the right supplier. So these are reinforcements na lang, 4 and 5. Of course, syempre curious ka rin sa mga other clients ni supplier and kung gaano siya kalaki. Baka naman isang pwesto lang yung supplier mo. Diba? Meron kasi mga ganun eh, na tipong maliit na opisina lang siya, tapos nagpaparating lang siya. Meron mga ganun. Meron naman yung tipong sikat. No? So it depends on ano ba yung preference mo. Again, it goes to the preferences. And number 6 is the capacity of the supplier. Ito medyo malaking factor to, no? Kasi gaano karami mga items na kayang i-carry ni supplier or gaano kalaki rin yung kaya niya i-supply. Siguro suki mo siya pero yung mga items niya hindi ganun karami yung kaya niya. Let's say, ibili ka ng retailer ka, o order ka sa supplier mo na wholesaler ng 100 tons. Kunwari lang, 100 tons of a certain item. Ang kaya lang niya i-supply is 50 tons. Then you will have a problem. But what if makahanap ka ng isang number 5 na malaking supplier that can supply you with a bigger capacity? Kaya niya i-supply 100 tons. Then, malaki yung chance na lumipat ka doon. Malaki yung chance na lumipat ka dun sa supplier. Again, number 7, reliability of the service, especially sa mga logistics. No? Kaya niya bang i-commit, i-deliver sa iyo within this week? Or lagi siyang, sir, naka-indent tayo eh. No? Ibig sabihin ng indent, in-order pa lang. Or nakapila ka, hindi ka naka-priority, so to speak. Sir, meron kasi kaming delivery na iba eh, mas marami. Then there might be a chance that you will select another different supply. And flexibility of the service. So kaya nila mag-adjust sa'yo. You as the customer is always right. No? So sir, sige, ganito gagawin natin. Magko-compromise siya sa'yo. No? Sir, hindi namin ma-deliver yung 100 tons of ganitong item. But ipa-partial namin, 25. Then, it's up to you kung papayag ka or hindi. Turnaround times. And payment terms. Yeah, so yan, no? Payment terms is very important. Baka mas mura doon sa isa, pero COD, no? Cash on delivery. Yun, tapos sa kanya naman, pwede kang magbayad 60 days. Siyempre, may dagdag, pero at least, pwede mong paikutin yung pera mo. And problem resolution process. So, let's say nagkaroon ng problema kay supplier, kaya na siya gumawa ng paraan para mag-solve the problem. Yeah. This one is more on the investor side. So you have 3 types: debt financing, equity financing, and hybrid financing. So ano po ba pinagkaiba nito? So si debt, baliktad yung occurs when a company raises money by selling debt instruments to such as bonds, bills, or notes to investors, or borrowing from a financial institution with an obligation to pay. To obtain the capital. Wait lang ha. Tuling ako. Okay. So debt, equity, and hybrid. So si debt, by selling debt instruments such as bonds, bills, or notes to investors, or borrowing from a financial institution with an obligation to pay to obtain the capital needed to grow and expand its operations. So papautangin ka nila para makapagsimula ka para may puhunan ka or expand. Palalakihin mo palalo yung negosyo. Equity, on the other hand, is the process of a company raising capital through the sale of ownership share in return for funds. Mamuhunan ka sa akin, bibigyan ka namin ng share. Pag kumita ang kumpanya, ito yung share. It is used when companies, often startups, like yung social enterprise, have a short-term need for cash. So, nabanggit na natin yung social enterprise a few lessons ago. Usually, sa Kickstarter sila. But kung standard corporation ka, then equity financing is the way to go. And hybrid financing includes characteristics of both debt and equity. So, pwede siyang mangutang and then pwede rin siya magbigay ng shares. Two ends within the financial spectrum kasi they're both on different schools of thought. In order to provide hybrid financing is wherein debt and equity meet in the middle. So, ano siya? Middle ground siya. Offering investors the potential benefits of growth. So, mas mag-expand pa yung company because you already have equity financing and then you're still racking up debt. Mangutang ka pa. So, why not? And last is the government. Ayan. We're not a political science, subject, but let's do a recap lang. On the Philippine government specifically, there are three branches. You have the legislative, the executive, and the judicial. So ano po ba ang characteristics ng tatlo? The legislative makes the law. So, sakit sa ulo. Ulo. So this is where you have the senators and the congressman, the higher house and the lower house, the Congress. The Congress, ang ano natin dyan, ang common misconception is congressman. But no, it's the Congress itself, which is comprised of the natin, dapat representative na lang. So, si senador dito sa Senate and si congressman dito sa House of Representatives. We're slightly patterned or at least similar in pattern to that of the United States. On other countries, it's just the Congress or another term is the Parliament. And you carries out the law, you have the president and then the vice president and the cabinet. So yung usual debate natin, the vice president, medyo na-highlight lang siya ngayon. Bakit daw hindi binigyan ni president ng job responsibility? Actually, throughout history, not just in the Philippines, ang vice president, hindi talaga siya binibigyan ng powers. Bihira. Even yung magka-tandem, let's say si Trump dati and Pence, nung umaalis si Trump, hindi naman niya iniiwan kay Vice President Pence yung powers. Actually, even Vice President Pence, I think, did not have any position whatsoever than just being a Vice President. So usually, ang role lang ni Vice President is substitute if the President dies or incapacitated, kung ano man yung mangyari sa kanya. So, throughout history, after Marcos, Aquino, so yung Vice President, si Salvador Laurel, he was given a position. Siyempre, boring naman, nakatunga ka lang din buong araw. Si Erap, binigyan din siya ng position ni President Ramos. And same with Ramos to GMA. I think si GMA was DSW na. And then GMA to Gingona, sandali na sila, parang wala. And then Gingona to Noli de Castro, I think it's more of yung pag-ibig or other works. So, the last time that katulad ni Vice President Leni Robredo, wala siyang official position, na just establishing the office of the Vice President, is during Diosdado Macapagal. Wala siyang position. And last, you used to have the cabinet, which supports the president. Yung mga Department of Education, Department of Finance, Department of Public Works and Highways, and other departments. Ito yung mga cabinet members. And last is the judicial. Kasi si executive carries out the law lang siya. So si legislative gagawa ng law, the executive will sign, judicial will evaluate the law. Tama ba itong pinagagawa at pinirmahan itong dalawa? So, ito yung sinasabi ni Bamboo na quote-unquote tatsulok. No? The check and balances. So you have the Supreme Courts and other courts such as the Regional Trial Court, the Metropolitan Trial Court, Fiscal's Office, Municipal Trial Court. No? The role of government. So we do not really have to discuss that because most of us already have an idea kung ano ba talaga ang papel ng gobyerno. No? Whether it's it plays a significant role in our everyday lives. So even whether you are pro or anti administration, regardless of the administration, apektado tayo. Or you are apolitical. No? Plays a significant role in our everyday lives, even in a supposedly capitalistic economy. So last time we mentioned the market economy wherein the government does not really interfere, but it can if it wants to. Pag no choice na talaga, pag talagang sobrang gahaman ka na o sobrang madugas ka na, you will be dispensable to the government. Kaya kanyang tanggalin. So we have already discussed that in the three eminent powers of the state. It ensures the provisions of goods and services, redistribution of income and wealth, stabilization of prices, and maintenance of low inflation rate. So, binabantayan kanya. Monitor yan. Yan yung talagang pinakamalaking CCTV sa bansa. And regulates the economy. So, mahaba-haba ito. Provides the legal framework that enables private ownership. So, yun yan. Three eminent powers of the state. Property rights and the enforcement of contracts. Collects taxes. Ang daming role. No? Mahaba ito. Mauubusan tayo ng oras. Extend lang tayo ng konti. Collects taxes, provides subsidies, produces public goods, changes the distribution of income, defines and protects property rights, corrects externalities and regulates monopolies and monopolistic competition. So yung mga monopolyo, let's say si Meralco, nakatutok pa rin dyan ang gobyerno. Hindi naman siya yung bahala ka sa buhay mo. No? Hindi siya ganun. Fills the gaps that the market leaves blank and corrects some excesses of the free enterprise system. Kaya nga meron tayo minsan yung mga price ceilings and price floors. No? Or kung may mga kakulangan, then the government can help. Provides infrastructure. Kaya nga meron tayo ngayong build amenities and utilities that guarantee access to many services to all citizens and not just to those who can afford to pay. So let's say mga public utilities, public hospitals, yun yung pinakakailangan talaga ng tao ngayon. Public healthcare system. So if you will notice next year, kung meron man, most of the candidates, medyo nagpo-focus sila dyan sa universal healthcare. Yeah. The role of government. There are three models. The classical, Keynesian, and the monetarist. So according to the classical theory, the government's role should be limited to a few activities such as treaty making. So usually international relations, tax collection, peace and order, and infrastructure. Pwede naman. Pwede. For the Keynesian theory, the government's role should be to stimulate the economy through pump priming and other activities. So ano nga ba ang pump priming? Okay, yan natin. Kung kaya. What is pump priming in economics? Para transparent tayo. Gen Z. Okay. Pakyan natin ng konti. Okay. Pump priming according to Google, di ba, is the action taken to stimulate an economy. So yun yung focus. No? Keep to make the economy alive and kicking. If not rise or even improve. No? So ang focus dapat, according to Keynesian theorists, is that the economy is the focus of the government. And for monetarists, the government's role is mainly balancing monetary and fiscal policies. Wala namang mali dyan kasi kanya-kanya silang schools of thought. But for me, it's more a combination of both classical and Keynesian. Kasi government is a service, no? So actually all three medyo combined. So CKM dapat, not just one. The government, you might consider, is the hardest service to fulfill. No? Binigay mo na lahat. Pero marami pa rin galit sa gobyerno. I'm not saying hindi ka dapat magalit. Pero not all people will be pleased. You cannot please everyone. There will be people who will continue to complain. No? But usually ang complaints kasi is temporary. So the government should not be, ano ba yung sa Tagalog doon, balat sibuyas. No? Pag nagalit yung tao sa'yo, then just let it be. Just try to improve yourself. No? So merong mga projects ng government dati na ayaw ng mga tao, no? Regardless of the administration. But now, nakikinabang tayo. A good example is that of President Ramos. Binenta niya ang Fort Bonifacio at that time nung hindi pa kayo pinapanganak. That was very controversial. Why are you selling government property to some, di ba, to businesses? But now, hindi mo naririnig ang mga tao nagpapasalamat kay Ramos. Wala silang, huwag na natin sabihin. No? You're forgetting that BGC used to be a part of Fort Bonifacio. And actually, it still is. But it became one of the money spinners of the government of the Philippines. It stimulates the economy. Nagkaroon tayo ng panibagong central business. It's a strength and a weakness of the Philippine government. Masyado tayo maraming central business districts. You have Makati, you have Ortigas, you have nagtatry ngayon si yung sa may bandang Trinoma, nagtry but hindi nag-kick off yung sa Alabang. And you have the original CBD, which is Binonda. So the governments monitor their approval ratings. Yun yung sinasabi ko. You should not really make any backlash comments. No, ito yung nagiging problema ngayon. I think the media, social media, mas medyo visible yung commentary ng mga tao. And even the government. No, unlike in the past, they can do some blackouts or, di ba, pwedeng makat yung mga pinagsasabi nila, no? Like quote-unquote putting words into their own mouth. But now kasi ang daming receipts. You post something, kita kagad ng mga tao. So governments monitor their approval ratings to gauge popular support. However, a popular government may not always mean an effective and efficient government. Take, for example, the Duterte administration. It has maintained popular support. But the question is, Is it an effective and efficient government? It's up to your, it's an open question. I don't need to hear your answer. But regardless of which administration handles the government, meron meron pa rin siyang inefficiencies. Walang perfect administrator. Sabi nga nila tayo mga tao nagkakamali. Even the governments. The problem with that is yung government is a larger scale. Lahat. That's why it's much more open to scrutiny. And then socioeconomic factors affecting business and industry. Socioeconomic factors are characteristics that define the quality of life in a society. Influence the behaviors, attitudes, trends, tastes, and lifestyles of individuals. So ito yun, no? Combination ng lahat ng mga pinagbabanggit ko kanina. The different class segments of the society, that is, yung mga upper class or alta de sociedad, middle class or mga bourgeois or bourgeoisie kung gusto niyo sa Tagalog, and lower class, yung mga noon, no? Yung mga mahihirap, mga salat sa pera, di ba? Or attributable to the socioeconomic factors. Kahit saan ka dyan sa tatlo na yan, apektado ka ng socioeconomic factors. So, ang pinaka-focus, no, or the main parameters of the socioeconomic status according to the study of American Psychological Association or APA is education, income, and occupation. I said they are in tandem. Sometimes your education will affect your income, and wherein income is also affected by the nature of your occupation. Believe naman ako sa iyo kung nasa assembly line ka tapos ang sweldo mo is 6 figures. Probably if you're a manager, no, who studied at some university, who had a lot of experience. So itong tatlo magbe-best friend to. So ito yung sinasabi nilang legendary triple kill. So minsan kung kulang ka sa edukasyon, malamang mahirapan ka maghanap ng trabaho at malamang mababa ang sweldo mo kung makahanap ka man ng trabaho. Comprende? One, yun nga, na over-explain ako. So alam na yan, matik na yan, income is the amount of money individuals earn from their daily economic activities, be it employment, business, or investments. Education equips members of the society with the skills and knowledge they require to be employed in different jobs and professions. So for the class, the majority of the class actually prefer to become a PSA student. So ano ba ang focus para maging isang quote-unquote CPA? Bachelor of Science in Accountancy. Siyempre marunong ka na. Hindi ka na mag-aaral ng accounting tapos ang ito or reinforced concrete design. Hindi siguro naman ganon. So, kung ano man yung focus mo, aral, yun yung ilalagay nila sa educational curriculum as per. And even forget the CHED, senior high school, which strand do you prefer to study? So sa ABM, usually they will put the ABM subjects, specialized subjects. Hindi naman siguro sila maglalagay ng pampasakit ng ulo na STEM strand on our curriculum. Occupation refers to the types of jobs performed people by virtue of their skills, experiences, or choices. There are some people who are lucky enough to work on a different occupation kahit hindi nila gamay yun. I, for example, finished civil engineering and then finished with a master's in business administration. Hence, I was able to teach senior high school. But still, nire-retain ko pa rin yung engineering background ko. So I still do construction work. Pero usually for the majority, kung ano yung tinapos nila, work in-apply. Yeah? Or that's what they call honing the craft. Other factors, alam na natin to eh. We have already discussed them. The peso or PES, state, macroeconomic environment, alam niyo na yan. It's already been discussed. And then the business viability and its impacts on the community. So community viability, the goal is to establish local economies that are economically viable, environmentally sound, and socially responsive. Never forget those three: economically viable, environmentally sound, and socially responsive. Achieving this goal requires participation from all sectors of the community, both to determine community needs and to identify and implement innovative and appropriate solutions. So bakit ganito, sir? Of course, your community knows what it needs. Kayo mga nakatira sa isang komunidad, kayo nakakaalam kung ano man yung mga pangangailangan nyo. That's why you are required to participate. And syempre, yung mga pangangailangan nyo, kailangan economically viable. Kailangan kumikita rin naman yung mga businesses na yan. And nakakatulong sa environment. Okay. So, kailangan magtulong-tulong ang community in order to assess the business. Baka naman mamaya maglagay ka ng talipapa dyan sa area nyo, hindi naman pala siya viable. No? Sustainability forces on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their needs by being dynamic. So, kanina, no, if you will see here, you have the economically viable, environmentally sound, and socially responsive. Balik natin. Ay, nako. So, hindi lang for the current generation, but also for the... So it is composed of three pillars. So, nabanggit na kanina, economic, environmental, and social. So tatlo na kagad siya out of the PESL. They're also known as the profits, planet, and people. No? Consists of the CSR. Whereas viability is defined as the ability to survive. So, pangmatagalan at kayang makasurvive. Parang sinabing immortal. In the business sense, that ability to survive is ultimately linked to financial performance and position. So, para maging sustainable ka, kailangan viable ka rin. At para maging viable ka, kailangan kumikita ka. Financial performance ka, saka yung paano yung placing mo, no, sa community. A viable business has great effects to the community. Some of these are, ganyan. No? Unang-una yan, pinaka-importante. It provides community jobs in the business sector, produces taxable income for the community from both the business establishment and the workers. So pag nagkaroon na isang viable business sa community, ang unang-una makikinabang is the LGU. Huh? And number 3, government continuously makes improvement in the community infrastructure. So syempre, meron mga latest developments. No? A good example is that yung Acropolis ba yun? Diyan sa may Pasig. Development in Mega World. So nagkaroon ng mga improvements in the community infrastructure such as bridges, roads, sewers, water, electric to increase other businesses to invest in the community. So syempre kailangan i-develop mo yung area. Hindi pwedeng yung business lang, kailangan may tulong din ni government. And number 4, helps in the establishments of better schools, more businesses, and even more jobs for its citizens. Nakakatulong. Nakakatulong siyang lumago ang lugar. And number 5, leads to improve business services to the community. So lalong gumaganda yung nagiging mas conveniente ang komunidad. It's not like in the past where you have to go somewhere else para lang makuha mo yung pangangailangan mo. Now, everything is just right in front of you. Very convenient. And number 6, it improves community life. Correct. No need to explain this one kasi dumadali yung buhay niyo. Therefore, it improves the community life. So you have the seat work here. It's a very simple question lang naman. So please, for your other locking items, kindly submit. We will have our exam on the final day of the remedial class on June 11. Para saktong-sakto, no? Very symbolic that your Independence Day will be on June. So please submit your lacking requirements. I will not hesitate to do again what I have done and what I have to do. It's your fault. It's your fault. You're most previous. So for the closing prayer, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Viability. And so that's all. Thank you.